Hi, it's Nate Charles, and welcome back to the Rule of Law Brief. I actually already released a video this morning, and I wasn't planning on doing another one today, but something just happened that I think warrants immediate attention. In just the last few minutes, there's been reporting by the Associated Press that the FBI's counterterrorism division has reached out to the Democratic lawmakers involved in the production of that video, urging military members to disregard and disobey illegal orders. The FBI has informed those lawmakers that they are opening up an investigation in response to that video. Let me be clear. That kind of political speech cannot, under any circumstances, serve as the basis for an FBI investigation, at least not the sole basis. The FBI's own governing document, specifically something called the DIOG, the Domestic Investigations and Operations Guide, prohibits it explicitly. And the timing, coming immediately after President Trump accusing those lawmakers of sedition punishable by death, is not subtle. It raises the specter of a premier national security agency of the United States being pushed into the business of policing political dissent. And that is enormously problematic. I already mentioned the DIOG. Another companion document that sort of goes along with the DIOG is the Attorney General's guidance for domestic FBI operations. Together, those two pieces of doctrine establish a bright line rule. The FBI cannot open an assessment, preliminary investigation, or full investigation based solely on First Amendment protected speech, expression, association, or political activity. I used to get letterhead memoranda from the FBI on a relatively routine basis, and every single one of those memoranda opening up an investigation had to have a certification on it that the investigation was not open based solely on First Amendment protected speech, expression, association, or political activity. This is a significant guardrail protecting the Fourth Amendment rights of all Americans. Those guidelines aren't aspirational, they are mandatory. They are the foundational barrier preventing the FBI from drifting into domestic political intelligence work. Let's be clear. I was never an FBI agent. I was a federal prosecutor in the counterintelligence and export control section of the U.S. Department of Justice. That means I work closely with FBI headquarters on some of the most sensitive counterintelligence and counterespionage cases in the U.S. government, cases involving foreign powers, espionage risks, and nuclear proliferation threats. And even in that environment, with enormous national security stakes, we could never predicate an investigation solely on someone's political views or statements. Not even when their speech aligned with a foreign adversary's narrative. Not even when their grievances were the exact kind of thing that could motivate someone to spy. Not even when it would have made our jobs considerably easier. Especially not when it would have made our jobs considerably easier. You needed conduct, contacts, tasking, unexplained travel, anomalous behavior, not viewpoints. So when the FBI now appears to be targeting sitting members of Congress for appearing in a political video, that's not just concerning. It's a direct collision with the Bureau's own legal framework. According to the recently uploaded reporting, this inquiry was triggered immediately after President Trump publicly labeled these lawmakers as seditionists and suggested they were eligible for the death penalty. Then the FBI reached out. That's a problem because it strongly suggests one of two things. Either the FBI has abandoned its own predication standards, or it is allowing political pressure to drive operational decisions. Both possibilities are incredibly dangerous. If political speech becomes an accepted predicate for FBI action, then the predicate barrier that separates a democratic security service from a political police force is gone. People throw around the phrase crossing a red line, but this is a real one. We are watching a premier national security agency target elected officials for core political speech. Speech that is explicitly protected and speech that is foundational to civilian control of the military. If this is allowed to stand, it normalizes the idea that political disagreement can trigger counterterrorism scrutiny. And once that becomes normal, even at the assessment level, nothing stops it from expanding to journalists, activists, nonprofit organizations, or anyone who criticizes those in power. That is how democratic institutions erode. Not all at once, but one broken safeguard at a time. If the FBI is now in the business of investigating political dissent, that's not just a policy failure. It's a systemic one. And it's the kind of thing that historically free societies do not come back from. The public deserves transparency about how this so-called inquiry was predicated, and Congress should demand it immediately. Because this is exactly the type of moment when institutional guardrails matter. And it's exactly the type of moment when those guardrails appear to be giving way.